December 1st, 2018. That's the day everything changed for Bryce Love. One play, one cut, one torn ACL. And just like that, a career that seemed destined for NFL stardom was derailed. He was the fastest player in college football, Stanford's record breaking Heisman Trophy finalist who was projected as a first round pick. But some stories in football don't follow the script we expect, and Love's journey from phenom to forgotten is one that'll make you question just how fragile an NFL dream really is. Remember when Bryce Love was literally outrunning entire defenses? The kid was something else. But how did he get there? Before he was breaking ankles at Stanford Stadium, Bryce Love was shattering records at Wake Forest High School in North Carolina. This wasn't just some good football player. This was a legitimate track star who happened to play football. Love clocked a 10.68 in the 100-meter dash as a high schooler, making him one of the fastest recruits in the country. His father, Christopher Love, a former college football player himself at South Carolina, had instilled that work ethic early on. When Love arrived at Stanford in 2015, he wasn't exactly walking into an open starting job. The Cardinals already had a superstar in Christian McCaffrey, who would go on to finish second in Heisman voting that year. So Love did what patient, high-character guys do. He waited his turn and learned from one of the best. During his freshman and sophomore seasons, Love operated primarily as McCaffrey's backup, getting limited touches but showing flashes of what was to come. In 2016, even in a secondary role, he managed to rush for 783 yards on just 111 carries. That's over 7 yards per carry. Coaches were already seeing something special in practice, but the average fan probably couldn't have even picked him out of a lineup. Then 2017 happened. With McCaffrey off to the NFL, Love stepped into the spotlight and absolutely exploded. From the season opener, it was clear this wasn't just McCaffrey's replacement, this was a different kind of beast altogether. Love's breakout campaign was nothing short of historic: 2,118 rushing yards, a Stanford single-season record, breaking McCaffrey's mark from just 2 years earlier. What made that season even more remarkable was that Love accomplished it while battling through an ankle injury that would have sidelined most players. He was routinely playing at less than 100%, but still producing eye-popping numbers. Stanford head coach David Shaw couldn't help but marvel at his star running back's toughness. "I've never been around a player that plays through the level of pain that he plays through," Shaw said during the 2017 season. "It is unbelievable." His performance against Arizona State that season remains one of the most dominant single-game rushing displays in college football history. Love torched the Sun Devils for 301 yards on just 25 carries, including a touchdown runs of 61 yards, 59 yards, and 43 yards. That wasn't a football game. It was a track meet where only one guy knew the race had started. What separated Love from the other fastbacks was his complete skill set. Yeah, he had the track speed that made him a home run threat on every play, but he also ran with surprising power for a guy listed at 5'9" and 196 pounds. His vision and patience to set up blocks turned 5-yard gains into 50-yard touchdowns. And unlike some speedbacks who shy away from contact, Love would lower his shoulder and fight for extra yards when needed. By midseason, NFL scouts weren't just noticing, they were salivating. Love was being projected as a potential first-round pick, with some analysts comparing his game-breaking ability to that of Jamal Charles. His teammates weren't surprised by any of it. Stanford quarterback KJ Costello put it simply: "The guy just works harder than everybody else." When the dust settled on that magical 2017 season, Love had finished second in Heisman Trophy voting behind Oklahoma quarterback Baker Mayfield. He'd established himself as one of the most electric players in college football, with an NFL future that seemed blindingly bright. That blindingly bright NFL future was right there for the taking. All Love had to do was grab it. Instead, he made a decision that football players have been debating ever since, one that would transform him from future NFL star to a painful cautionary tale in just 60 minutes of game time. After his record-breaking junior season, NFL analysts projected Love as a potential first-round pick. The conventional wisdom was clear: strike while the iron's hot, his draft stock would never be higher. So why did Love choose to return to Stanford for his senior year? 2 words: academic aspirations. Love was pursuing a human biology degree with plans to become a pediatrician after football. He'd already invested 3 years of rigorous coursework at one of America's most demanding universities. One more year would complete the degree he valued alongside his athletic achievements. His father, Christopher Love, supported the decision. Bryce has always been about more than just football. Education has always been the foundation in our household. But from the moment the 2018 season kicked off, it was clear this wouldn't be the encore performance NFL scouts were hoping to see. Love was still nursing an ankle injury from the previous season that never fully healed. In Stanford's opener against San Diego State, he managed just 29 yards on 18 carries, a shocking stat line for a player who had averaged over 8 yards per carry just months earlier. As the season progressed, defenses employed a simple strategy: stack the box and dare Stanford to throw. With a struggling offensive line that had lost several key starters to the NFL in graduation, running lanes that had been highways in 2017 were now barely visible footpaths. Love found himself constantly dodging defenders in the backfield, fighting just to get back to the line of scrimmage. The numbers told the painful story. Through 9 games, Love had accumulated just 580 yards rushing at 4.5 yards per carry, nearly half his junior year average. No more 300-yard games, no more highlight reel breakaways, just a grinding, frustrating slog week after week. Stanford offensive coordinator Tavita Pritchard acknowledged the struggle. Teams are committed to stopping Bryce. They're putting 8, sometimes 9 guys in the box. That's respect, but it makes our job a lot harder. With each underwhelming performance, Love's draft stock continued its steady decline. Scouts began questioning not just his durability, but whether his junior season had been a fluke. NFL executives who once saw a potential game changer now saw a risk: a small running back with mounting injury concerns. Then came December 1st, 2018, the big game against California, Stanford versus their bitter Bay Area rivals. The 121st meeting between these storied programs at Berkeley, California's Memorial Stadium. Stanford was clinging to a 23-13 lead early in the fourth quarter. On a routine running play to the outside, Love planted his right foot to make a cut upfield. There was no contact, no dramatic hit, just a sudden giving away of his right knee as he collapsed to the turf. The stadium fell silent as Love clutched his knee, his face contorted in pain. Trainers rushed onto the field. His teammates gathered around, many kneeling in concern. Love was helped off the field, unable to put weight on his right leg. The diagnosis came soon after: a complete tear of his ACL. His college career was over. The injury couldn't have come at a worse time, just months before the NFL Combine and Draft. A projected recovery timeline of 9 to 12 months meant he would miss all his pre-draft workouts, his rookie training camp, and potentially his entire first NFL season. With one wrong step, Bryce Love's financial future transformed from multi-million-dollar certainty to a high-stakes gamble. While NFL prospects typically spend the months before the draft perfecting their craft, their 40-yard dash, interview skills, etc., Love faced a drastically different reality: grueling rehab sessions, painful physical therapy, and the mental anguish of watching his draft stock free fall in real time. The NFL Combine in Indianapolis, that critical showcase where prospects prove their athletic prowess, became just another painful reminder of what could have been. While other running backs sprinted, jumped, and showcased their skills for scouts, Love remained sidelined. His value determined solely by medical evaluations and game tape from healthier days. Teams couldn't evaluate his recovery progress or current athletic abilities. They could only speculate about his future based on his past. NFL front offices don't just evaluate talent, they calculate risk, and Love's medical file had transformed from a footnote to the headline. Teams weren't just concerned about the ACL tear itself, but the accumulating evidence suggesting durability issues. His ankle injuries from the earlier seasons, once viewed as evidence of his toughness for playing through pain, now registered as warning signs of a potentially injury-prone investment. Former NFL scout Daniel Jeremiah summed up the harsh reality: teams looked at injured players like damaged goods. It's not fair, but a guy who was once considered a potential first-round talent starts sliding down boards because you're drafting the injury as much as the player. Every team's medical staff had a different assessment of Love's recovery potential, creating a wildly varying draft grades across the league. The 2019 NFL Draft became an exercise in patience and disappointment. Love watched as the first round passed without his name called. Expected, but still painful. Then came the second round, where running backs like Miles Sanders and Darrell Henderson heard their names called instead. By the third round, even more rushers with less impressive college credentials were finding NFL homes, while Love continued waiting. Finally, with the 112th overall pick in the fourth round, the Washington football team made the call. What should have been the most exciting moment of Love's life instead highlighted everything he'd lost, not just physically, but financially. The difference between a late first round selection and an early fourth round pick often exceeds $6 million in guaranteed money, the cruel financial penalty for a single non-contact injury. Washington placed Love on the non-football injury list for his entire rookie season, essentially giving him a redshirt year to focus solely on rehabilitation. While teammates practiced, played, and established themselves in the league, Love's NFL experience consisted entirely of medical treatments and therapy sessions. His career was stuck in neutral before it even began. The comeback trail grew even longer in October of 2019 when complications necessitated a second surgery on the same knee. What should have been the final stages of his recovery reset to square one, adding months to an already lengthy rehabilitation process. The mental toll of such setbacks can be as devastating as the physical pain, watching a season pass by while battling doubts about whether you'll ever return to form. When Washington's training camp opened in August 2020, Love was finally medically cleared to practice, a full 20 months after his initial injury, but the football gods weren't finished with their cruel joke. After just a handful of practices, Washington cut him. Love had gone from Heisman runner-up to NFL cast-off without ever taking a regular season snap. Bryce Love's journey is a stark reminder that football careers hang in the balance of moments. One cut, one tackle, one decision can redirect a life's trajectory. The margins between NFL stardom and anonymity aren't just thin, they are microscopic. When we watch Patrick Mahomes throwing touchdowns or Christian McCaffrey breaking tackles on Sundays, we're seeing the exceptions, the rare few whose bodies withstood the brutal gauntlet that claimed Love's career. Football's cruel reality is that talent alone isn't enough. The human body can only absorb so much punishment, and Love's story represents countless others who had the skill but not the physical fortune to sustain a professional career. But there's something powerful in how Love has pivoted. His Stanford education wasn't just a backup plan, it was preparation for a different kind of impact in medicine. Love has the opportunity to heal rather than perform, to save rather than score. Sometimes the most meaningful victories happen far from the spotlight of packed stadiums. Love's legacy might ultimately be measured not in yards gained on the field, but in lives improved through his medical career. A reminder that when one dream ends, another one can begin.